A very good morning to everyone. Morning. Okay. I'd like to thank Buddhist Fellowship for actually giving me the opportunity to sit here and as well just to deliver a talk today. So it's my first time doing this on a Sunday, so forgive me if I say or slip anything wrong. So the topic today is actually life with a pinch of MSG. It was actually supposed to be taking life with a pinch of salt, but because the talks before me on the Sundays and after my talks all had very funky titles lah. Right, last week I think it was about clockwork, and next week also that I think the titles were quite funky. So the office actually asked me to jazz it up. So the amount of which I could jazz it up to the level was just to replace salt with MSG. Okay, so that's about it. So okay, so I'm assuming that all of us here have actually been on the path for a very long time. Can I have a show of hands? How many of you have been on this path for 10 years? Good. 5 years? 3 years? 2 years? How many are fresh? You will consider yourself new? Yeah, okay, good. So today's talk actually I want to address two things. We all know that, we always know to take life with a pinch of salt, right? Or a pinch of MSG, to take life not so seriously, especially in the Buddhist practice. But here I would like to twist it a bit. I will want to bring across taking life with a pinch of MSG, with MSG meaning craving. Why are we still living life with holding on to craving, with attachment? How come we're still not enlightened after being on the practice for so long, right? So understanding why we hold on to attachments, still hold on to attachments even though we have been, a sincere Buddha follower of the Buddha, okay? And the second thing is knowing this, okay, why we are still holding on to attachments, and knowing that the path to enlightenment is actually a gradual journey. So what are the essentials necessary for our practice, or what we need to remember, okay? So, we all know that we are supposed to let go of worldly desires, but yet we are still holding on to them. Buddha has been telling us, that there's danger in gratification whatsoever, but yet we still want that a little bit of flavor in our lives. That's what MSG is all about, isn't it? We always want to have that bit of flavor, that seasoning, that salt and pepper in our food to give it a little bit more kick. Or even in our coffee, you must add a little bit more cream or sugar depending on whichever brand that you all like. Okay, so the moment that we're introduced to food or to life with a little bit of flavor, that's it. We kind of get hooked onto it. We never seem to let it go, isn't it? And our taste buds are like, oh, we're very excited. We always want to relive it again and again. Yeah? And so why does this happen? I like this picture. Because this happens because the center of our worldview is us. We are the center of our own universe, isn't it? It's always about ourselves. We think we can conquer the world. We need to eat food. We need to eat so we can live. And we are the only players in our own experience. So this picture is actually quite accurate, isn't it? It's about me, the things that are around me, the things that are associated with me, how far you're sitting away from me, and so on and so forth. So everything that we describe, okay, is all in relation to us, okay? Or even providing directions is also in relation to ourselves, isn't it? Turn right from here and so on and so forth. So we get quite caught up with our own emotions, our own views and all, okay? Then we become not so open-minded or we listen to anyone in that sense, yeah? So we then become prisoners of our own mind, or even other people's judgment as well. So when we take ourselves too seriously, that's what happens as well. So why does this happen? So why do we still hold on to this self? Why are we still not being able to let go? It's because we don't see the problems of the regular mind. We don't see that we are engaging in delusive behavior, that we're still addicted to pleasures, even though we say that, okay, I can moderate, I don't need my sugar in my coffee. I can go with coffee, what's that? Kopi O siu tai, and then you say kopi po, and then you try and really reduce it, okay? We still have quite perverted motivations and habits that's been ingrained for many lives. And we are still intoxicated with youth, with our health, with life, etc. So why is this so? So man has a tendency to see the world in four ways. Are you familiar with the four inversions? Seeing impermanence as permanent, seeing sukha, happiness, in what is dukkha, seeing self in what is non-self, and then seeing the attractiveness in the unattractive. And it's because of this that we get complacent with what we have in the present, isn't it? We see the world completely opposite from what the Buddha saw reality. And so that's why we continue craving. We always seek gratification in the next moment, in the next delight, in the next activity that we do. And we don't really see the dangers of that. And we kena stuck, so we're here again and again. And even though we're practicing for so many years, we're still stuck. We don't seem to know or move or get a headway in wherever we're moving. So I'd like to share with you what is a little bit more about the intoxication with youth, with health. And so I'll share with you a bit about my findings and all that. Are you familiar with the sutta, or the 5 recollections about I am subject to old age? I am not exempted from old age. We are all intoxicated with youth, isn't it? When we are young, we always say that okay we can get away with unwise stuff. Old people will give us a chance because we're still young, we don't know how to say things and all that. Or some of us will go on holidays. We always think that we better go for holidays while we are younger, right? Because lao liao, then our knees no strength, cannot climb, cannot walk so far, or we cannot enjoy. Or we go for dangerous outdoor activities, do bungee jumping or whatsoever. I think these must be more for the youths, the youngsters, right? Maybe if you are saying that we are a bit older, we are intoxicated with youth, we color our hair. We don't want people to see our white hair. Or maybe we taint it or color it so gradually that, okay, people will see our hair from black become maybe red, then maybe a bit green, then grey, and then eventually we just color it white. You see, we're still holding on to our youth, how people will perceive us. We always want to be seen young. And that's not only all. Some people will go for facial, Botox, plastic surgeries. They'll do a lot of things so that to preserve their own youthfulness. And I bet here I think a lot of people, even men y'all will go for antioxidant serum right? No? Or the ladies, y'all will go for anti-aging masks or antioxidant kind of serums and all that. So all these are about intoxication with youth. And the next thing that we're intoxicated with is health. If you're actually not on the path, right? Some people will say, you see your friends, they actually drink like a fish, isn't it? Alcohol. They didn't drink and then they get drunk and then they puke and then the next day they start all over again. Yeah? Or we have so late nights. We think that we're still young, we're still quite healthy. We can sleep late. And so we can just sleep 2 hours because we need to pay our work or we need to pay whatever we're studying as well. Or when we're a bit worried about our health, we take a lot of supplements, protein shakes because you feel that you want to build up your muscle strength and all that, or you obsessively go to gym, right? Some people do have a tendency to go into these kind of health behaviors just so that they feel a bit healthier. And another one, some people would be also hypochondriacs, right? Got a little bit of cut, a little bit of pain here, you run go see doctor, or you run go to the polyclinic. Or some people, extreme wise, they'll keep going to A&E yeah. Another example of how we can be intoxication with our health is that when we work, we all have company benefits. We all have company entitlements, isn't it? They will give us money to go and do health checkup. And then they'll give you money to, you can spend on supplements or you can even go for gym membership and all that. And then we make use of all these so that, we know that actually they favor us. We're putting a lot of emphasis on health and about our youth. So the next one, I was talking about intoxication with life. How are we intoxicated with life? It's essentially with whatever that life brings us, all things that are pleasant for experiences, what life has to offer, we enjoy it so much, isn't it? We enjoy and we're so contented with actually what we're living right now. And we always think that death will always occur to someone else, not so much of me. We always think that, someone who is already old, walking a bit slower, death will occur to them faster than us, isn't it? And we've always feel that death won't come so soon because we are still quite young. That's linking to the part about intoxication with youth. And we always think that there is tomorrow. How many of you, when you go when you sleep at night, you are very sure that you will wake up the next day. None of us will think that way, right? Yeah, everybody, all of us will assume that we will go to bed, we'll wake up the next day, and then we will start planning for what you want to eat for breakfast, where you want to meet a friend, what you need to wear the next day, and who you're going to go on and so forth. Yeah? So that is intoxication with life. We're always planning for the next moment, next future, thinking that it will always be there, right? Things will always be permanent. And the other thing that we're always intoxicated with is that our desire and lust for people and things, that we won't be parted and separated from everyone and everything that is agreeable and dear to me. But this is always known to us since we are very, very young. We know that when our toys get pulled away from us, we'll cry, right? As a young child, baby, and all that. And when you go into primary school or even secondary school, there were people who will leave you in terms of you make hi-bye friends, isn't it? How many of us do still speak with all our primary school friends or all our secondary school friends? We meet people and we tend to drop people along the way, no matter how dear they are to us. Yeah? And as we get older, we find out that, people around us, some of them do pass on and leave us early. Okay? Some of us lose money, we spend money. So whatever health or wealth that we're trying to hold on, that will also eventually leave us. So these are the four intoxications that we all have. And because of all these, we see that it's actually permanent. We're still holding on to the image of youth, being young, being healthy and all that we still don't see the problems of the regular mind. We don't see that we are holding on to all these moments. Yeah? And so that's why we experience dukkha. And depending on how strong our craving is, depending on how strong this attachment is, then that's how strong our suffering is as well. Yeah? But you see, we know all this inside, but we don't really reflect on it. And because we got so much dust in our eyes, right? The usual saying, we got so much dust in our eyes, we don't see why we should renounce the world like the Buddha did and all that. So we're still quite happy with where we are. Yeah? And that's why we're also given to our desires in that sense. So if we don't see that having the same old thinking will lead to the same old results, then we will never get out of samsara unless we do something to it. Unless we change ourselves for the better, we reframe our mind and reflect that, things are impermanent. And if we hold on to things, that will bring us dukkha. Yeah? And why we never get out of this unless we do something about it? Because there's this sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya. So in Asu Sutta 15.3, the Buddha said we have shed so many tears over being joined with what is pleasing, being separated from what is pleasing, and the loss of a loved one, getting married off or with someone that you don't like. All the tears that we have shed are actually greater than the water in all the four oceans. So we have cried so much. We need how many tear duct replacements? And so we have experienced so much dukkha, so much stress, so much pain, so much loss, and then cemeteries are getting bigger, and then sometimes we have to, excavate them, and then to make place for newer or more up-to-date modern kind of cemeteries, right? So the Buddha said that this is actually enough for us, actually. Knowing this is actually enough for us to be disenchanted with all conditioned phenomena, enough for us to be dispassionate and actually to be released from samsara. Yeah? And so what are we doing wrong, perhaps? We need to remember that it's actually a journey for the benefit of oneself and others, not all. Sorry, I just said all. So it's actually a journey for the benefit of oneself and others. All of us, at one point in time, even myself, I would say, we always think that, okay, the Buddhist path is about meditation, it's about purification of the mind. But we forget that there is the other half, which is about giving service, doing good and helping others. And so we tend to put all our eggs into one basket, which is, I need to do meditation. If I don't meditate, I cannot be liberated. And that makes us very hard. We are only cultivating ourselves. We're not cultivating, or we're not walking the path for ourselves and others. So this is a very crucial point that we need to remember. Okay, that when we are on the path, the Buddha always said, it's always about a journey for the benefit of oneself, and also for others. Okay, and It is actually a life well practiced and a life worth living if one develops or grows in these 5 ways. Okay, so he who grows in faith, he or she grows in faith, grows in virtuous behavior, in learning, in generosity and wisdom. So growing in these 5 ways, the noble disciple will grow by noble growth. He will absorb the essence and the best of this very life. You don't need to wait for the next life to know that, oh, I have lived a good life this life. Isn't it? Okay? So what is this 5? This 5 talks about building faith, okay, confidence in the Buddha, the Dhamma, Sangha, about Silla, virtue or morality. So whatever our actions that we do, it doesn't give us any remorse, and it actually inspires or brings about gladness. About learning, understanding from the learning process with the right attitude, accumulating the knowledge of the Dhamma. Because if we don't accumulate knowledge, then we got what? Wisdom, right? We always grow up, we need to know or learn or seek learning either from teachers or from books, so that we have a foundation or a baseline to move on, or often for wisdom to grow. Okay? And practicing generosity, okay? Because it touches the heart and it brings a lot of joy when it's well delivered, and it's all about letting go and forgiveness. When we engage in an act of generosity, we're actually giving up a part of us, giving up our time, letting our ego down, okay? Not letting our ego down, letting our ego go just in that moment where we tend to someone, and so on and so forth, yeah. And cultivating wisdom. Wisdom, the most important thing is when it hits you that the Dhamma makes sense, and it will develop the momentum for us to understand more, and also push us, it gives us the momentum to walk, to push on until Nibbana. Okay, so let me go in and elaborate a little bit more about the 5, these 5. So the first one, Saddha. So it's the confidence in the triple gems. Okay, confidence in the Buddha that he was enlightened, confidence in the Dhamma that his method actually works, okay, and will bring about a cessation to dukkha. And also confidence in the Sangha that there are actually practitioners who have made it and allowed us to take, and had also tasted the bliss of Nibbana. And it's also, if it weren't for them, we also wouldn't have the Pali Canon today, written in English or even recorded. It would have been lost, across the centuries. So Saddha is also very important in building, when we need to build it, is because it actually helps us to keep our mind open so that we can hear, so we can learn and remember and internalize, practice and grow. If Saddha is important because it allows us to park aside all our preconceived notions, okay, to open our minds and our ears to listen what the teacher had to offer or what Buddha had to offer that could actually provide us with a path out of suffering. Yeah? And it's a very powerful and essential uplifting, and it actually gladdens the mind, right? And the Buddha was also said that, when noble disciples possess 4 things, okay, 4 things meaning the confirm confidence in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and also virtues dear to the noble ones. So he was saying that the Devas are actually very happy and will also comment or compliment these human beings or us or whoever that has the confirmed confidence in the triple gems and also having virtues dear to the noble ones. They will consider them on par, equal, and they will feel elated. They will feel quite happy with them as well. Okay? So that's what Saddha is all about, building the faith, okay, and it helps you to keep your mind open, yeah, and living with Silla. So we always know as a start that Silla is all about our 5, the 5 precepts, right? But why do we choose to live with Silla? So there are actually 3 reasons. One is we all know the impact of karma, right? Or our actions or our mind. If we have a wholesome thought or wholesome motivation, that will bring us joy, isn't it? And it will have other pleasant effects on our minds. Once we are happy, we are, and all that, a lot of, it kind of lingers for a long while more. And we do know that with an akusala motivation or an unwholesome motivation, that will bring about a lot of suffering and pain on the mind, and it kind of lingers on for a long while more as well, and it's very hard to uproot it. Yeah? And so that's the first one, impact of karma. And why will we live with Silla? Is because we live happiness. Okay, it's for happiness in this life and the next. Most of us will all observe Silla because we know that our choices, right, do have a direct impact on our happiness today, right now, right here and now, and also on our spiritual progress and eventually the condition for our next life, our future lives. And thirdly, why we will choose to live with Silla, or hold our precepts tighter and hold it to a T, is that for a practitioner seeking spiritual growth, okay, and enlightenment, being virtuous is non-negotiable. So the Buddha said that we need to uphold Silla to be free from remorse, and only when we are free from remorse and worry, only when we have a clear conscience, then joy can arise, isn't it? If you're always worrying and you're always so scared or guilty, then you'll always be hiding, you'll always be shaking. How can joy arise in that state of mind? Okay? And so the same thing as well. A clear conscience is also a necessary condition for the arising of joy and tranquility. And it's only then that we can meditate and still our mind a little bit better. Yeah? And so minimally, it's talking about the 5 precepts, doing no harm to another. So like what in Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 61, so the Buddha taught Rahula, right, how to train himself through repeated reflection of his body, speech and mind. So if on reflection, you know that whatever that led to pain for your own self and for the others, or for both, in knowing that it was an unskillful act that brought about painful consequences, painful results, then you should feel distressed, ashamed, and disgusted with it. And then you should exercise restraint in the future and you should not do it again. But on reflection, if you know that whatever you did not lead to the pain for yourself, or pain for another, or pain for both of you, but it actually brought about happy consequences, happy results, then you should stay mentally refreshed and joyful, training day and night, spending the whole time in skillful mental qualities. Okay, so morality is basically about doing no harm to another, having that constant reflection. Are you doing harm towards yourself? Are you showing kindness towards yourself? Are you showing ill will towards another? Or whatever you do, is it affecting both parties? Okay, and especially that is so that we have no remorse and we have a wholesome state of mind that will help us in our meditation or our practice. Okay, so freedom from remorse, giving rise to gladness. Okay, so that nothing that we do, the wise ones will scold us for. Okay, so Buddha won't scold us. Buddha teaches us that we have to do so many things, right? So we need to walk his path. Okay, and minimally also to be generous, to be considerate, to show loving kindness to people around us, to be patient with them. Okay, knowing that conditions made them react in a certain way, and all. Right. So the next one, sutta. So the right conceptual understanding from the learning process, the right attitude leads to gladness. How many of you are very happy when you read or gain knowledge? How many of you are very happy when you pick up a Dhamma book and you start reading? I should see more hands, leh. How come only so few hands? Okay, so yes, because when we accumulate a bit more Dhamma knowledge, we actually know what to do next, isn't it? We know what to do so that we're happier in this life as a lay person. So it's actually the same thing. Even if we weren't in Buddhism, that's why we have books on the seven steps to happiness, right? Why we are how to get 7 steps to happiness, or for peaceful mind, and also ever. So we always seek for another person's pearls of wisdom. We always want to try out their recommendations until we find the right answer for ourselves, isn't it? So this is a starting point, putting aside whatever preconceived notions you have, going and listen to Dhamma talks, to Sanghas, from other lay teachers, whatsoever, and then reading books, not only Dhamma books written by Sangha members, but also the Nikayas themselves, the Pali canon, because all those were recorded suttas from his time, from all his disciples as well. Okay? So all these are actually our self-help books. The Pali Canon is actually our self-help books. Okay? And all this is so that we will be inspired, and our faith actually in the practice will increase when we put all this learning into practice. Yeah? And what should we do when we're learning? Learning is not just learn, not just read. Okay, when we know a bit more, we need to learn much. We need to remember what we have learned. Okay, we need to consolidate what we have learned. This one no-brainer lah. In school, so we need to do this, right? If not, we cannot pass the exam. Okay, so we need to know that these teachings, okay, the Buddha's teaching is actually good in the beginning, okay, good in the middle, and good in the end. It is good on all fronts. He will always have a solution for us. Okay, he won't leave, the suttas won't leave us hanging midway. Yeah, and it has the right meaning and phrasing, and that which affirms a holy life which is utterly perfect and pure. So those teachings, as he had learned, as one has learned much of, remembered, mastered verbally, needs to investigate it with the mind and penetrate well by view. So it's not just about learning, okay? You need to consolidate it, you need to remember it, you need to bring it up to mind, okay? You need to investigate with it, put it into practice, not just read and then store at the back of our head. And then when we want to bring it out, we find that it's very hard to bring it up to mind, to try and put it into practice. Okay? So that's what learning is all about. It gives us a bit of foundation on what we actually need to know or need to do on the path, and then using those knowledge or whatever steps or tools that it actually is in the suttas and all that, to put it into practice. And then when we see that it actually does work or does help, that actually helps us to grow our faith even more, right? That the method actually does work, and then we see that wisdom does grow as well. Which brings me to the next point. Okay, I'll jump ahead. Okay, sorry, that will be part of wisdom. Okay, and chaga. So practicing generosity. So in the sutta, in the Pali Canon itself, there was actually one sutta which actually talked about recollection of one's virtues or even one's generosity as a meditation object. Right? We all know that, we hear people saying that there are 6 different subjects of recollection taught by the Buddha, right? One would be the qualities of the Tathagata, the Buddha himself, qualities of the Dhamma, or qualities of the Sangha, okay? But we can also recall qualities of our own generosity, okay? How generous we have been to others, okay? We had no expectations in our giving. We weren't stingy, we're not so niao lah. We are freely generous, we are open-handed, we are not close-fisted, we're not so tight in our giving. And we actually delight in that letting go, all right? And we are very devoted to charity, and we're delighting in the giving and sharing. So the Buddha said, this is also a very good meditation object. So no matter what, we feel that if one is on their deathbed and we feel that we have not done good enough, we have not done enough in this life, actually no, bring up to mind all those moments that you actually have shown generosity or you engage in acts of generosity. Because all these small bit counts, lending ear to another when they are in pain or when they actually need a listening ear, okay? Or even just spending time sitting next to someone who is suffering so much, walking through someone's difficult time, if someone is experiencing health issues and all that, so all these, all about chaga, whatever that we engage in, is actually about a practice of letting go, okay? And it actually touches your heart, and it will bring about joy when it is well delivered. And there are many ways in which we can actually practice generosity, or we can engage in them. And this is me trying to sell koyok lah. I've been trying to sell koyok yesterday also at DFC. So, koyok here. So we can actually practice generosity in many ways, right? I know a lot of us we know whenever Sangha comes from overseas Sanghas come and all that, we will give food, okay? We give alms offerings, we'll give medicine, okay? Some of us here also do volunteer their skills, right, to BF. And there are some, long-time supporters, they will do designing for the posters, for all the different talks, maintain the BF website, even the Facebook page, teaching in Sunday school services and all that, okay? And then also, even down to just fetching Sangha for talks, bringing them from airport to BF, then BF to the next place, so on and so forth. Yeah? So there are many ways in which we can practice generosity. Okay? And it's not that saying that we got no car so we cannot fetch, or I don't know how to design so I cannot help. So it's actually playing to your own skills, and it's actually playing to your own skills. If you have a very good listening ear, then okay, lend your ear to those people in the prison, or those people who are, at the final moments of their life, or they're walking through, they have just a few months left to live. Just sitting down there, lending ear to them, okay? Or even a person who's going through so much in life as well, okay? Or even, that you're very good at chanting, right? I know some people are very good at chanting, lah. Okay, they can spend a long time doing it. Then join the Ehi Pasiko chanting group. These people would meet and all that, and then they will chant, and then they'll do service for the deceased and also for their families, helping them to guide it over. Okay? And so that's another way, that you can do service, and it's not limited to just only service in BF. I bet everybody else also does a lot of voluntary services elsewhere. You all donate your blood lah, when you all see school children and MRTs or whatsoever holding the tin box, and then you tong a bit of your coins and all that. So everybody does do a bit of goodness or goodwill in any way that we can, isn't it? Okay? So I put the QR code here is because this QR code brings you to the BF website. All right? This must do exco must do duty, must 做工, right? So if you know that you can volunteer and help in BF, even if you're unsure if can I actually help, or if if your skills are actually, or your services is what actually BF requires, just go in and fill up the form, and then just discuss with the office themselves. If you are really keen on helping, you're not really sure how you should start off, then go and seek help, or just ask for assistance. I bet the office staff will be able to help you with it, because your intention is pure. You really do want to help. You want to practice letting go. Like you want to help another. Okay? So scan the website, and if you know, and then share it together with your friends as well. Okay? So there's also I think they do some community services as well, being a befriender at Geylang East for the home of the aged, and also for Renci. So if you would like to join them on the Saturday afternoons or even on Friday afternoons, so just drop your name, okay? Either you can go by the website, or you can drop your name on the form that it's outside on the counter itself, okay? So there's so many ways, right? If I say all these still don't understand, or you still don't know where to start, right? Then easy, Visa coming up, right? Okay, I think for several Sundays we have been talking about Vesak Day is coming, and it will also be at Chiwe Lim Club. So if you're unsure where you can start helping, why not try out at Vesak Day itself? So you just let the office know if you're comfortable with helping with 1 hour on that day itself, or even the day before or the day after, helping them to pack things up, or bringing things to the club itself, or helping them to pack up and then bring it back to BF whatsoever. So all these small thing counts. It doesn't have to be helping during the event itself. It's also a lot more things like behind the scenes, planning how many lotus flower or how many candles that the masses will require on the day to offer to the Buddha as well. Okay, so if you are considering it, or if you're open to it, you can just leave your names outside as well. Okay, no hard and fast rule. All right. Okay, sorry, I self-koyok too much already. Let's go back to Dhamma. Okay. All right. So last one, Panya. So we talk about cultivating wisdom. And what is wisdom necessary? Because it helps us to stop our delusive perceptions of the world, right? I spoke about the 4 inversions just now. Seeing things that are impermanent as permanent, seeing things that are beautiful as attractive, seeing things that are unattractive as attractive, okay? Seeing happiness or sukha in what is dukkha, and then seeing what is self and non-self. All right? So all these so wisdom is actually necessary to help us to stop that delusive behavior. Okay? And what do we need to grow towards, and what wisdom do we need to cultivate? It is actually the wisdom that sees into the rising and passing away of phenomena, okay, that is noble and penetrative, that leads to the complete destruction of suffering. So we need to grow that kind of wisdom, okay? And so what should we do? All right. So this sutta in AN, Anguttara Nikaya, Book of 4, sutta number 248. So in order to grow, if you want to grow wisdom, these are the 4 things you need to do. Okay? Associating with good people, listening to the true teaching, placing proper attention, and practicing in line with the teaching. So these are the 4 things that lead to the growth of wisdom. So associating with good people that will bring you along on the path. So the Buddha always said associate with the wise and not the fools, right? But how would you know they are wise if you don't even know what is wisdom? Yeah? So that's why in here he puts here associating with good people. And good people meaning what? People who are gracious, people who have a lot of gratitude, who are grateful, people who spend more time in wholesome activities, wholesome thoughts, not so much in unwholesome behavior. Okay, so that's what he means by associating with good people, people of good intention, good nature. Because the moment you spend time with a good friend who is so kind and all that, you also feel very kind and all. The energy kind of rubs off on you. Yeah, so that's why it's associate with the good, because you also don't know, how can you judge if another person is wise if you don't even know what is wise. Yeah, so, and hearing the right Dharma or listening to the true teaching. So this, in this point, is also linking back to the point that I addressed earlier about sutta. So cultivating the right learning attitude, cultivating the knowledge, being inquisitive, and then when being respectfully asking the teachers and all that to clarify the doubts or sangha as well, and approaching them from time to time, okay? And in approaching the teachers or the sangha, they are able to help you to dispel your doubts and teach you what has not been understood, okay? So that's the second one. And paying proper attention or careful attention. What this means is that you're seeing and you're actually putting attention on things that should be attended to. And what I mean, you're not putting attention on things that are not fit to be attended to. Do you understand by this? Do you understand what this actually means? How many of you meditate and then you all stare at pain, and then the pain grow, and then it grow, and then it grow? Are you supposed to be staring at pain, or are you supposed to be staring at the passing and falling, rising and falling of pain, and seeing how detached you are from it? So it depends. So that's what it's talking about, careful or right attention. You need to put your attention onto things that are fit to be attended to. It will help you to see impermanence and see dukkha and anatta, and not the more you stare at it, the more you get drawn into it, and the more you get caught up in it. Okay? So that is what it's talking about, proper attention, careful attention. All right? And the last point is talking about practice in accordance with the Dhamma. So knowing what you are doing, so whatever you've learned, you know what you're doing, and so that you know that your practice is consistent with the teachings. So whatever that you're practicing, whatever you're doing, is based on the right understanding. And right understanding is based on what is the right teachings or the right knowledge that you actually put out from the text. Okay? And that is really very important, and we need to work that up all the way, and we need to know whatever that we've practiced or we meditate and all that, what is seen is actually correctly understood. Because once we understand it wrongly, then we kena stuck lah. We are still stuck in this merry-go-round, samsara, and we will still continue crying until the seas overflow until cannot lah. Okay? So, these 5 mental qualities or these 5 mental states, the Buddha also said in another sutta that when these is fortified over a very long time, this will actually lead one towards a heavenly rebirth. So in this sutta it was quite cute because Mahanama was actually asking the Buddha, how, when my mindfulness regarding the Blessed One becomes muddled, if my mind is so hazy, and then my mindfulness about the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha becomes hazy, then what will happen if I were to die? Where would be my destination and where will I be reborn in? So the Buddha said, don't be afraid, because if one's mind actually been fortified or strengthened over a long time by faith, okay, faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, okay, virtue or morality, okay, learning, generosity and wisdom. So no matter what, you will always, when you pass on, even muddle in the mind, okay, you will go upwards and you will go to distinction. Okay? And he gave a good, very cute analogy here. So he was saying that suppose a man submerges a pot of ghee or pot of oil into a pool of water and then he breaks it. Okay? So all of its shards and fragments will sink downwards, but the ghee or oil would rise upwards. So whatever that you have collected, this pot of ghee or pot of oil, through our cultivation, through our practice and all that, even if it were to end, if our life were to end, that will still float up and you will be rewarded with a good rebirth. So I brought in two suttas here. Not only the earlier sutta I mentioned, you will have gained the most of this life, you have lived a good life, but also in terms of you will be reborn in a better realm or have a happier rebirth higher up. Okay? So this is why we need to look at these five qualities and cultivate them. Okay? So you all can remember what are the five? What's the first one? Saddha, faith. Second one? Silla. Then the third one? Third one? Chaga is one, yes. And then? Panya is one. Sota. Must remember, sorry, not sota, sutta. Okay, always remember sutta. So faith, having the faith, okay? Practicing morality, living with morality, okay? Third one, having learning, engaging in learning the Dhamma, okay? Fourth, practicing generosity, putting whatever you have learned into practice for the benefit of others. And also the last one, panya, for the benefit of yourself when you do meditation, will be more introspective. Okay? So these are the five, yeah? So all in all, we all know, right, that conceptually that things are impermanent and in short, dukkha will always be a pervasive nature, feature of our lives until we gain enlightenment. So we always need to remember to do the most important thing or things, which is to cultivate the five. So the five is? Are you also not enthusiastic? I cannot. Saddha, yeah. Silla, Sota, Chaga, and Panya. Okay, so these five. And these five are for the benefit of oneself, for yourself, and also for benefit of others. It's twofold. Okay? So, yeah. So in this way, when we have actually gathered enough momentum and energy and all that, then we find that, we actually can push further and walk towards Nibbana. So eventually, we will get to a life without MSG, a life without craving, isn't it? We can live without having attachments and all that, live freely. Okay? All right, so that's the end of my talk. So thank you all for listening. Okay, I hope that all of you will also have to walk the path and also achieve the fruits of the path. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sister Abigail. Okay, now we are into the Q&A section. I was going to say FAQ. Q&A section. Anyone has a question to ask? Don't be shy. Okay. Perhaps I could start with the first question, Sister Abigail. Okay. So in one of the slides you mentioned about associating with good people. But sometimes in the context of life, lay person's life, you can't avoid sometimes, being around people who are not so good. How do you manage that? Like when you're at work, for example, and for example, that person is your boss, you just can't disassociate. It's like, how do you manage this more skillfully?
think for us, when we are working, definitely we will have colleagues or even bosses who are probably quite demanding lah, and also not so nice or not so wholesome at times, right? Sometimes quite unkind. But for me, I will come from it from looking at a point where everyone has their own baggage, they have their own karma, okay, and they have their own conditions that led them to being not so nice, not so kind. And knowing that, try to bring up a little bit more metta or compassion for the person. And so in that way, you kind of, not only in doing this, you're actually practicing for yourself, but also for the other, because he also does feel your softness and your gentleness, and then they won't react defensively towards you as well. But so definitely, because we are lay people and we are working, we will meet people that way. Especially, we also won't meet people on the path, or who are sincere practitioners. So that's why the other half is also important. Not only do we have friends who are not on the path, but also establish a group of friends or like-minded friends who are on the path as well. That you all will go for retreats together, you all will discuss, the Dhamma together, you all will go for Dhamma talks together and all that. So that is also really important. So how much of the entire week do you spend with your spiritual friends or with your non-spiritual friends? So I would say spending more time talking, communicating, sharing with like-minded spiritual friends, that is, to me, I kind of lean that side a little bit more. And yes, showing a lot more metta and all that, and also cultivating the Brahma Vihara, showing upon for those that are not yet on the path, and to help them whenever they need.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister, for your enlightening talk. You mentioned that planning for the future is a sign that you are intoxicated to life. Will you categorize this as good intoxication? The notion that intoxication is always bad is not always true. Due to our nature of the world of being volatile and uncertain, isn't it logical and practical to prepare for the future?
If we are a lay person, if we are living a lay life, definitely we need to plan for the future. And the Buddha also say we should plan what? Right? He also did mention we need to save money, put certain money aside for our family and friends, certain aside money for protection of the house, or in case, or like insurance in case for building, or for putting aside for education and all that. So the Buddha said that yes, you can plan. You need to plan for the future in terms of for the benefit and the welfare of yourself and for others. Okay? But if you're planning your future, or as a layperson, we are so caught up with planning for the future because of myself. I want to get to this position. I want to be in a position where I earn a lot of money and all that. If it's all about yourself, then it's not so wholesome. And then people can get drawn or get intoxicated with life in that sense. Yeah. Did I answer your question? In a way. Yeah, thank you.
Since you are here. I'm referring to your first, just now, talking about the habit. I know that has been answered with regard to the Buddha teaching, pana, wisdom. But in the reality, especially living in like in Singapore, everything going quick fix, we call it maybe autopilot to the young generation, to the older generation, we call it habit. But my question is, from your experience, you're dealing with many different stages during education and so on. How to overcome, how to cultivate the good habit, or in other words, how to reduce the bad habit, because it's not easy to change the bad habit. Maybe you can share with us.
So you're talking about how to cultivate a bit more good habits.
Yeah,
And
or how to overcome. You know, I think we all have we call it bad habit, especially in the living in the fast country like Singapore, yeah? But I know that if we, using the wisdom realization, of course, we get the answer. But in the reality, to overcome the bad habit is not that easy. Maybe you can share. I know a lot of challenge.
Yes, I mean for us, going against our mental habits, that is very difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult to go against our instinct to lash out at a person who is not so nice to us, or we get very defensive when the person poke our ego and all that. That's very difficult. That one's definitely for sure. But it all boils down to why we want to engage in wholesomeness, why we want to engage in wholesome behavior and not. So it goes back to why are we practicing morality for? How much emphasis in your practice do you place on engaging in those wholesome thoughts? If the urgency, or you view it as a priority, and then if you also see it from the point where you need to cultivate yourself to be a more wholesome person, then that should drive you to put in all your effort into the basket of trying to arouse good, wholesome mental states, and then try and, really bite your teeth and let go of your anger or let go of your ego whenever possible. So it really depends on your own practice, where you're placing, and also the understanding. So we need to understand as well that we need to have wholesome behavior, wholesome thoughts, not because the Buddha says so, but it's because it's beneficial for our own practice, and it was also for not only ourselves, but also for people around us. And that it also gives us no remorse, okay, so that we can have a calm and happier mind. So it actually goes back to why do we need to have wholesomeness? If you actually understand it, if all of us actually understand it really well, then it will be very easy for us to drop away lashing out at another, and then we will always be in good or, showing kindness to another. But it's because for ourselves, we don't really understand it very instinctively, very strongly, then we always have that small moments where we always just lash out. But that is fine, because these are, whatever that we have, all these habits have been ingrained for years and years and years, so many lifetimes, right? So much so that the AYE already formed. So what we need to do is to slowly take it out, and whenever we find ourselves lapsing into, the not so wholesome behaviors, or we lash out at another and all that, to pull ourselves back and forgive ourselves for doing so, and also addressing the person who we just lash out at as well, for showing that kind. So that's why we're saying seeking forgiveness, the forgiveness the chanting and all that, why we seek forgiveness from the Buddha, or we ask seeking forgiveness from the Sangha as well. So that seeking forgiveness is also for ourselves, for any wrongdoings that we have, okay, in our practice. We are very sincere, we try, but somehow it just lets slip, it gets the better of us. So we need to, all of us can go and seek forgiveness, chant, we forgive ourselves, okay, and then also address the party or the person who we had lashed out at. So as we close the loop, being a nicer person, we try and butter it a little bit better, yeah. So that's my take on it. Yes.
Thank you, brother, for asking that question. Very relevant. Yeah. Thank you, sister.
Thank you.
So we have quite a few questions from this side. I go over now to the other side and see if there's anybody who wants to ask questions here. There's no right or wrong or good or bad question, because everyone learns by sharing and asking questions and hearing the answer. We all learn together. So is there anyone from here that would like to ask a question? Or perhaps the ones who have joined us here for the first time, would you all like to ask any question? Don't be shy, we're all here to learn together. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm here for the first time. So my question is, how do you reconcile Buddhism with ambition, personal ambition, which is said to be, an important part, especially of life for young people, especially?
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
In a sense that I guess my perception of it right now is that, for example, as a young person, we're told that, for example, advancing a career is important, but that leads to sort of an attachment, right? And so that's something that I've been thinking about. And, how do you balance that with, the teachings here? Yeah.
So if I could paraphrase it, it's like when you have ambition, but how do you balance that with trying to practice wholesomeness in
Wholesomeness or the suffering that comes from like attachment, yeah.
So you're also saying, how does Buddhism fit in to knowing that we, as a layperson, we have always been taught, we have to study so that we have a career and then we have a good life, and then all that, right? So it actually goes against the grain of it, but the Buddha also said that yes, as a layperson, we do need to live a good day life. We do need to be respectful to our parents, okay, show gratitude to them, and then upholding whatever relations we have with our boss or whatsoever. So he didn't discount the fact he knew that the path isn't ready for everyone, okay? So there's twofold. So there's one that it's for the monks. That's when you have, the monks going, or ascetics, going on the path. And the other half, or half of his teachings actually do address the lay people themselves. So yes, how can we balance it a little bit more? I would say is that picking as a start, if we are at the beginning of our journey and we are actually just starting Buddhism and all that, taking bits and pieces of what we can relate with. So not really questioning too much, because we do know that, of course, when we first start out, people keep talking about the practice is for Nibbana, but we don't want Nibbana yet. I just want it to help with my mind, just to cease the mental suffering that we have right here and now. So picking those parts of his teachings that are relevant to you right now and then, rather than taking the whole picture into play. Because definitely we all do have our ambitions and all that. That is for sure. But as you practice along the way, you will find that your priorities will change. You might not be so ambitious as before, and you might even, give up, chasing for a very good career or whatsoever. You just want to eat simply, live simply, and that is what the Mangala Sutta is about as well. You're talking about living a life simple, simple and contented as well. Okay, yeah.
any questions?
No need squeeze already lah.
Thank you, Sister Abigail. Yeah, thank you very much for all the